Let's get into it now. A spoiler-free movie review of Together, starring real-life married couple Alison Brie and Dave Franco. I'm actually a fan of both of these actors. Alison Brie since way back in Community. She was also really great in Glow. Dave Franco, have been watching him since Superbad, also great in 21 Jump Street. A lot of great 2010s comedy movies from Dave Franco. But what this movie is about, they play a couple who has been together for about 10 years. He is an aspiring musician, has been trying ever since they've been together to make it big, but just quite hasn't gotten there, just got dropped from his label. She just got a job as a small town school teacher, so they are moving away from the big city, upstate New York. He's kind of leaving behind his dreams. They've been kind of on the fringes of their relationship, not really connecting emotionally or connecting physically. And they're almost hoping that this move is going to save everything. But again, he just feels like, I got to hold on to this career that I'm building. And she just wants to move on and be with him. So that is kind of the premise of this movie. They move to a small town where it seems like everything is quiet and comfortable. It's out in the country. The small town vibe is really showcased in the cinematography. I love a good aerial shot of some trees. That really kind of puts you into a small town horror movie like this, and you just get this really grand scope that I was a fan of. There were a lot of really great shots that were just establishing all the scenes in this movie. A lot of big zoomed in moments, especially from like behind them. It just kind of gave me feeling of like a classic horror movie, which is really what this movie is at its core. It is a body horror movie because, well, you see it in the poster, you see it in the trailer. They encounter something that has this weird curse, and then their bodies just kind of keep sticking to each other. So it becomes the ultimate thing to bring them together, and they try to uncover exactly what is going on with their bodies and why each of them are starting to go crazy. Which this movie sounded like it was going to be right up my alley, especially coming off of one of the best body horror movies of all time last year with The Substance. I wanted more of that. I wanted gruesomeness. On the poster, they put horror movie of the year. So my expectations were way up there, wanting it to be on the level of something like The Substance, and I didn't quite get that. I really believe this movie stood in its way so much, and they were really trying to paint this backstory and this mystery, all that was kind of hidden in this town and going on. They even opened up with that I felt like it was a detriment to the movie because they kept over explaining things, which I believe Alison Brie and Dave Franco do have great chemistry. Obviously, being married, I think both of them are good actors. But it almost felt like some of the dialogue was so forced, and their characters were being a little bit too analytical at times, trying to just paint this backstory where I just wanted them to experience these things and show us more of that gruesomeness. Because that is exactly what was just lacking in this movie. More of those moments that were supposed to churn your stomach. I wanted to leave this movie disgusted, and I did not. I got something different though, and I don't think that is bad. I got a story about two people trying to navigate these waters where one of them really wants to make this relationship work and question, are they really doing the right thing, and exactly what are they fighting for? If you've invested 10 years in a relationship, is it only worth keeping because you've invested those 10 years? If you were trying just so hard to make things work and forcing it, do you really love the other person, or are you just comfortable? Because this movie is about a couple who maybe shouldn't be together, forced to come together. So I think the overall metaphor and overarching message of what they were trying to say, they got that through. But it's a horror movie, and I wanted more of the horror elements because that is great. I think to make a horror movie that has a little bit more substance, I'm all here for it because I enjoyed both of these characters. I thought what they were going through was really interesting, maybe even relatable to some people. It just never really reached its full potential, and the horror imagery was fantastic when it was there, but to me, it was just few and far between. So for me, this was a case of a movie that overpromised and underdelivered, and I wouldn't be holding it to that high of a standard if they didn't put that at the very top of the poster. If you call yourself horror movie of the year and you use that quote, a lot of movies have done that in the last couple of years. I think Longlegs did it last year. Longlegs lived up to that potential. Now that I think about it, they're both neon movies. So maybe they just get any review that calls them horror movie of the year. That's what I just got to start saying in my reviews. Horror movie of the year. I'll say that for every horror movie. Maybe that's what I need to do to get my reviews picked up, because oftentimes I call movies butt drenching that are really stressful, but I don't think movie studios want to put that on their posters. Although I would have known what I was getting into more if I would have seen Together, butt drenching movie of the year, as heard on Movie Mike's movie podcast. Put that on a poster. And I do still love Alison Brie and Dave Franco. I think they should do more movies together. They have worked together in films in the past. I think there's an entirely different level of chemistry when it's two people who have been together and married for so long that just comes across so natural. So even though their characters in this movie kind of have conflicting feelings about each other, you can still tell how much chemistry they have together naturally, and that really sold this story. I'm all for horror movies with a message, but you also have to deliver on the elements of horror. So for Together, I give it 3.5 out of 5 buzzsaws, because as soon as I left the theater, I thought, I have never seen a more 3.5 out of 5 movie, because it was so close there. Maybe just a couple of more scenes could have made me love this movie and reach that 4, because to me, a 4, I have to love parts of it and then maybe not like some other parts. 4.5 is I really love a lot of it, but there are just a couple of things that keep me from fully committing to a 5. A 3.5 is like, there was just nothing about it that I completely loved. I was so close to being there, but still so strong. I've never met a more 3.5 out of 5 movie than Together.